Hello and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen, and today we have another great episode for all of you, especially the Golden Girls. No, I'm kidding. But without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Graham. Graham, it's a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Pleasure to be here.
We had a nice little conversation. Graham, for those listening, is from Australia, and obviously I live in New York. So I'm talking to my future, and he's talking to his past. It's a little,
I
I thought
wish
that was
my
hysterical.
I wish my past was as handsome as you, Anthony.
I wish my future is going to be as handsome as you. So we're going to win-win here, man. I'll be happy. I'll take it. So without further ado, Graham, I know we're going to be talking a lot about aging after 50, working out, all that fun stuff. But before we do that, how did you get into the health and fitness world?
Okay, so in my corporate life, Anthony, I worked as a sales manager for a retirement business, and I saw people in their mid-50s that were already frail and pre-frail. I saw people in their 80s and 90s that were still traveling the world, still exercising, moving every day, and fully healthy. And I saw everybody in between. When I saw, in fact, a particular guy, he was in his mid-50s, a chain smoker, quite a handsome guy, actually. And he was moving into this retirement community because he wanted somewhere safe for his wife when he passed away. He's only 55. And I thought to myself, this just does not need to be this way. And it just motivated me because I've been into fitness ever since I could walk unassisted, ever since I was a little boy. And I said to this guy, I said, it doesn't need to be this way. We've got gyms and things in here when you come in. And that's one reason, largely the reason why I got involved, seeing people that had sat on the shelf, sat on the couch eating ice cream and jelly for 10, 15, 20 years and had an accumulation effect because of that. And then that's hard to reverse when that happens. So I thought I can make a contribution here. And I formed Renewed After 50 I formed it in 2012, but actually really revved it up during COVID, actually, or just before COVID in 2018.
Love it. So you kind of projected right into the fitness realm. I know obviously you're working in retirement community, so that got you into working with that age population. So first off, I agree with your observation off the bat. I have seen 87-year-olds that look better than 45-year-olds.
Yes.
And I wish that was an exaggeration, but it just kind of shows how important to me, the biggest commonality is exercise. Would you agree?
I do. The other thing that came to my mind as you were just responding then is the level of obesity in our world. I know that our percentage of obesity is about the same as what it is in your country. And that's because of that accumulation effect, eating the wrong things for too long. So I actually believe nutrition is number one, but it goes hand in hand with exercise. One's no good without the other, because if you've got a good diet and you're not exercising, you're going to finish up with poor posture, joints and so forth. So some weight resistance exercise with some cardio is absolutely what's required as we get older.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool research coming on it, especially with that population as we get more interested in it. First and foremost, weightlifting, which was the bane of that population's existence in the beginning, where I don't want to go lift weights with those 30-year-olds throwing in teenagers. But it's been shown that group needs that more than the 18, 20-year-olds really do. When you start looking inside of a human body when it comes to osteoarthritis, right? The cure to osteoarthritis is weight training. The cure to osteopenia and osteoporosis is weight training.
Yes.
So all of these things have tied back just to simply lifting weights and adding in resistance training.
I couldn't agree with you more. It actually goes further than that. I think weight resistance training pushes back against heart disease, stroke, falls. Falls is the greatest killer of people in the age group 75 and above. So balance is important. So if you've got a good core strength, a good base strength through weight resistance training, you push back against all of those things. Depression. It's been proven that weight resistance training actually aids mental health. So all of those things are beneficiaries of a really good weight training program.
Yeah, and I know you've been saying light resistance training. Is there a reason you're going light as opposed to just general or moderate resistance
Well,
training?
with due respect, when you're 75, you don't want to be doing 100-pound or 100-kilo bench presses anymore. Nor do you want to do 15-pound, 7.5-kilo reps, 20 reps of that. What we need to do as we get older is do more power training, so so that you can lift the grandchild, so that you can lift the shopping into the back of the car, so you can lift the shopping off the bench into the top shelf. They're one-off lifts. So you need to do, in fact, I have a power training class for older adults, and we focus on slightly heavier training, but not really heavy training. As we get older, whether we like it or not, the recovery time takes a bit longer. The propensity to injury is greater. So we need to be a bit more careful, but still concentrating on power training as what's the word for it, as opposed to a heavy weight training regime or even a light one, if that makes
So just to
sense.
reiterate, power training for those that don't understand, just 1 rep maxes kind of deal, because that's what you're doing when you're lifting a child, right? It's
Exactly.
1 rep.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's sitting
exactly.
there. Hold on, son. Let's do
Yeah.
15 of these.
Yeah. But what I would do is I'd work out what their 1 rep max is in a PT session, personal training session, and then I'd wind it back to 80%, because you're never going to lift your 1 rep max. But what you might have to do is your 80% max, and do that 5 times, and not overly fatigue. You want to feel as though you've had a workout, but you don't want to have a workout that's going to make you go home and sleep for the rest of the day.
Well, some people might want to, so it depends. No.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's nap time after the gym now. Anyway, but not to beat a dead horse, but cardio is great, right? We want to make sure we're doing some, especially like speed walking. Things like that are amazing for your cardiovascular system. But going back to weight training, you can do all of that through it, making sure you rotate your days with light resistance training, and then going into more of a power training program. I really couldn't agree more. It's just very hard to convince people in that age group that this is what they need to be doing.
Yeah.
They try to fight you on it. So how do you overcome that?
Okay, so 2 things come to mind. You talked about weight resistance. When you get older, weight resistance is king, followed by cardio, followed by some agility work, followed by some core work, mobility, balance. All of those things are appropriate for the age group. So how do I cope with, and how do I introduce training, whatever it is? I say to my clients, look, you're approaching retirement age. If you're in your mid-50s, you're approaching retirement age. And I'm not sure about in the US, but we have a system of paying in money while you're working so that you can draw down on that retirement. It's called superannuation. So our people spend their lifetime putting together a good nest egg of superannuation. You might have stocks and bonds. You've paid off your house. You've educated your kids, and you come to a time in your life where you've got all of this wealth that you can enjoy, but unfortunately you haven't banked fitness dollars along the way. So by the time you get to the age of being able to appreciate your wealth, you don't have the fitness or health. You might have 1 or 2 chronic diseases that impede you from going on overseas trips or whatever. So I give them that analogy while saying it's never too late to start. I try and promote getting going as quickly as you can, because you need to start banking those compounding fitness dollars the same way as you compounded wealth with your actual dollars.
It's true. We have a 401k, so very similar. They can build up wealth for retirement, and just kind of add to that. We had an 83-year-old that joined 4 years ago, and he is now 87, and he can do a 4.5-minute plank, and he has which I think is the most impressive thing. But according to him, the best thing he got out of it is he's no longer worried about falling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's like, I know I can catch myself, and if I do fall, I know how to fall, and to
Yeah.
make sure I don't break a hip or anything like that. Because, like you said, that's usually a death sentence for someone at that age.
Yes. Yes.
So it just kind of shows you can start now. You can start at 83. You can start at 85. You can start at 90. You don't have to be like, well, I'm too old to go do something like that, which is what I hear all the time. So it's like, no. You need to start now so you can draw out the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Really interesting stat, and I like mentioning this because it's true, and I'm going to reiterate. If you took like smoking, you smoke cigarettes, right? And you smoked a pack a day, every day for 30 years. You took that group, and that group went and exercised at least 3 times a week. Then you took a group of people who don't smoke, never smoked a day in their lives, and don't exercise. Which group lives longer?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question, Anthony. I've never thought about that one. Well, I've just got stop smoking in my head, but which group would live longer? I think the group that didn't smoke and didn't exercise. But the other questions, what's your diet like?
They did a whole study on this with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
They did a group study of it. It's the opposite. The smokers lived almost twice as long as the other group.
Really, truly. That's amazing.
But on the flip side of that, the group that, because they had a bunch of other groups in it, they had a group that exercised and didn't smoke, they lived even longer.
Yeah.
So it shows the power of exercise that we know, like you said, you hear no smoking, no smoking, no smoking. It was drilled in our heads how bad smoking is. Those labels on everything, right?
Yeah.
Smoking can kill you.
Yeah.
Actually, not exercising is going to kill you way quicker than a cigarette is.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's amazing. That's really, really amazing. Because emphysema is one of the greatest killers of older adults going around. If you've been a smoker all your life and you get emphysema, that's a death sentence, a slow death sentence. You finish up running out of air to breathe. In fact, in Australia, we're a population in total of about 6 million people, and 6 million of those people are older adults, older than 55. And 1 in 3 people have one chronic disease, and some have 2 or 3 chronic diseases by the time they get to 55, 60. So, and most of them don't exercise. It's only a very small percentage of people, as you would know, that have a regular habit of exercise. And the biggest reason that they don't exercise is I don't have time. But yeah, I could not agree more. And that is so surprising to hear that the smokers live longer. Maybe I should take up smoking again.
No, the moral of it is the non-smokers exercises the longest.
Yeah, so I'll start with that, I think.
I mean, but let's talk about emphysema, right? So that's something in like COPD, people are always like, oh, that scares you. It's like you're slowly going to die, and it's a death sentence, right?
Yes.
People get afraid and it's like, oh my God, I'm sorry you have that. But then look at the conversation for that same age group for type 2 diabetes. People, and maybe it's me in the groups, some people I've heard, they like joke about their type 2 diabetes together. Oh, you have it. Oh, I have it too. And how much insulin are you taking? Well, look how much I'm taking. Type 2 diabetes is the same freaking death sentence as COPD is. It just kills you differently. But both have the same end result, and both are slow, torturing deaths.
Yeah, I agree. And because of the addiction, and maybe type 2 diabetes sufferers are addicted in a way as well, but type 2 diabetes is more easily reversible than getting off nicotine, which is even more difficult than heroin to get off. So type 2 diabetes, if you get it early enough, go into a healthy diet, recommend a plant-based diet, you can reverse that in most cases.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. So food for thought today, Graham. That's what we're talking about, right? I'm talking into the future. I'm projecting my future self. Hey, if you're going to pick either stop exercising or start smoking over stop exercising. But no, I'm never going to do that. I'm way too addicted to the gym. So going back to the conversation, bringing in like different things we could focus on as the age group above, specifically above 50. Understanding we're trying to have hard conversations with them. It's a lot to convince someone in the age group that this is something they need to do now. It's more important now than it was when they were younger in general. This is my question, because I'm not in that age group, right? And you, I know, work with a lot of people, and you specifically are. So it's like, okay, what is usually that come to God moment for people in that age group? And what I mean by that is, what have you noticed in people's lives is the trigger that says, "Oh my God, I need to start working out"? Like, what happens to all of a sudden for them to have that thought to come to the gym?
Okay, a couple of thoughts. The first one is most of my clients are women, and the average age would be 60. And many of my clients have got osteopenia. So they go along to their doctor, they go and have a bone density test. The doctor says, "Hey, you've got osteopenia." And they say, "Oh my God, what can I do about that?" And he says, "You need to go along to a gym, find a trainer, and do some weight resistance exercise and build up your bone strength." So that's the first thought that comes to mind. Second one, there are chronic diseases. Somebody's overweight. The second one would be people come to me and say, "Look, I've got this tummy. I want exercises to get rid of my tummy." And I say, and they're obviously overweight. So, "Do you have a refrigerator in your kitchen?" "Yes." "Do you have a lock on it?" "No." "Do you have a lock on your kitchen door?" "No." "We'll get one put on your kitchen door, and stay out of the kitchen as much as you can, because it won't matter whether you come to the gym 7 days a week, 7 hours a day. If your diet's not right, you're going to continue to put on weight." So diet's the first place. So that type 2 diabetes, the doctor says, "Hey, you need to start moving. You need to get rid of some weight. Otherwise, you're going to die." And that happens in this age group. The other thing that I try and point home, Anthony, is that there's a thing called senescence. Every living thing on the planet is born, it matures, and there's a steady decline till everything on the planet will die. It's inevitable. In the case of a human, we mature about mid-30s, around about, and then there's that steady decline. Now, the people that are exercising are going to stay with a really good range of movement, health, strength, right, hopefully to the end. You'll wake up dead one morning. That's my goal, to wake up dead one morning. Other people that don't exercise will fall down, gradually go below the disability line, and maybe spend 5, 10, 15 years at the end of life in some form of care or needing. So, and that's the other thing I say, whether it's type 2 diabetes, osteopenia, which progresses to osteoporosis, as we know, mental health, whatever it's been. And I've had all of these people referred to me by the medical profession for all of those ailments that we've spoken about. And I say that, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in care for the last 10 or 15 years of your life, or 5 years? Or do you want to be as healthy as possible, stay above the disability line, stay totally independent for the whole of your life, and maybe only spend a short time at the end of life unwell or with some disease that eventually is going to get us all?
I had a guest on, I don't know, about 6 months ago at this point, and you're going to love this. This is right where you mentioned. He said, "I want to live my life like a square and not like a bell curve." And if those that don't get the reference, if you had a plot, right, from 0 to death, a bell curve is a standard deviation bell curve. It goes all the way up, you peak, and then you slowly decline. For him, peaked, best, all the way alive, dead.
100% agree. I want to die as young as possible, as late as possible.
I want to just not have to worry about going through torture. I mean, I watched people for 5, 10, 20 years,
Yeah.
and they just look like they just want to die.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I
No.
want to, just like you said, in my seat, quick. If I'm younger, it's fine. If I'm older, great. Whatever that is, that's kind of what I'm shooting for. But I want to make sure that up to like 7 days before I die, I'm still like hiking out west in Arizona, right? Or for you in Central Australia in that heat, and people are looking at me like,
Yeah.
hell is this guy doing? And I'm like
Yeah.
beating my grandkids, like, ha,
Yeah.
ha, ha, catch up kind of deal, right?
Hey,
Isn't that what life is about? We work so much, right? Most people get into the workforce 24, 25, 26, roughly. They start working 40 hours a week. They go all the way till they're about 65. So you're talking 40 years that you're really committing to your job. You restrict your travel, you restrict your free time. Job comes priority in order to make money and supply for your family. And then we have this idea that once we retire, we're going to do things. And we'd say this a lot when we're younger, when I'm 25, 30, 35. When I retire, we're going to do this. When I retire, we're going to do this. When I retire, we're going to do this. And then what happens? You get to retirement age, you get close to it. And you see a part of the population stop talking about when I retire, I'm going to do this, because their health has gotten such a shit and they just
yeah.
have given up on themselves mentally.
Yeah.
It's no longer a thought. And that's when they become depressed. And that's when you really
Yeah.
see the mental issues step in here, because they just give up and they no longer are enjoying talking about when they're going to retire when they're only a couple of years out at this point. Whereas if you take care of yourself, you take control and you really put the work into it, and you had that compounding health benefits, like you mentioned before, right? Like compounding interest, compound health. And you
Yeah.
build up, even over 2 years, you can turn your life around. You could be a totally different person. You could be spry, you can be mobile, and you can not have to worry about going out hiking, going out, hanging out with the grandkids. Food is a huge point, which you mentioned before about diet. I'm a big believer in eating to eat. And what I mean by that is you eat 80% of your diet well, right? You eat
Yes.
good.
Yes.
But if I'm going to retire, and I'm like out and I want to have a couple beers and I want to go have like a fried ice cream, I'm going to do it because 80% of the time I'm good.
Yeah.
And I can compound that over so that 20% I could be like, all right, I'm going to go eat whatever the heck this is. It looks horrible for me.
Yeah.
But just to get the enjoyment out of life, I don't have to worry about the effects on my body.
I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree. Too many people live to eat rather than eat to live. And that's why we've got the obesity problem. Portion size and what they're eating and so forth, just not right. Talking about going as long as you can, going up, living the square and then crashing down at the end. When I worked in the retirement industry, as I said, I worked as a sales manager in the corporate world, and I reported directly to the board of directors. And one of the directors had a father. His father was in his early 90s, and he lived totally independently. He'd lost his wife, still lived in his own home, rode a bike. In fact, he had only just taken up bike riding because his knees were aching running long distances. And we're talking early 90s here, by the way. So on a second or third bike ride, a long bike ride he was doing, he fell off and dropped dead on this long distance bike ride. And he said, Simon was the guy's name that I reported to. And he said, look, Dad lived a very, very healthy life. He would have been happy going that way. He was totally independent, looked after his garden, did the shopping, vacuumed the house, did everything himself. And he loved exercise. So the fact that he died riding his bike, sure, he wasn't a good look when we found his body. He said, but he did what he wanted to right to the very end and stayed active right until the very end. What a way to go.
I love that story.
Yeah. So he was either 92 or 93 and took up bike riding after a lifetime of running.
What a great story. See what I mean? That's what it's about. Being just knowing you can do something like that. And then if it's over, it's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't become reliant on over-the-counter drugs and all this fun medical shit that we have to worry about. So, Graham, just to kind of get the big picture of here, how do we go about changing the conversation for people? And because we're losing the obesity epidemic, just to be clear. Like, I don't want to sit here and act like we're winning. We're totally getting our butts kicked. The obesity rate, especially in the States, goes up dramatically year on year. So how do we change the conversation to teach people what you and I already know? We're just bullshitting about things we already know. But how do we get to people that don't know and really turn them the other direction?
Do you know what? You and I know at the coalface right in front of our clients, because we see our clients every day. We know what to do at that level. And if you've been sitting on the couch, as we said earlier, and developing a body that has taken you 15 years to develop, you're not going to wind that back in 5 weeks. So you need to be patient to wind that back. We understand what it's like on a us to a client basis, but I think it goes far greater than that. I think it goes to government. Governments actually know what healthy eating is all about, yet they actually subsidize industries that provide food that we know that's not healthy for us. I don't want to be controversial, but and I perhaps won't mention the industries, but there are many, and those industries provide research that pushes back against any negative thought about their product. But it's funded.
Let me hop in here to help you out real quick, because another
Yeah.
stat for you. Most ultra processed food companies are owned, and you can look this up, by the old cigarette companies.
Yeah, right.
So
I
you want to
didn't
talk
know
about
that.
addiction.
Yeah.
They are the ones that created the ultra processed foods. If you go look at the owners of the companies, subsidiaries of the old tobacco industry, because they knew they were getting shut down, so they
Yeah.
went and bought all these little companies. Go ahead.
That's
Sorry.
right.
Just thought that was an interesting stat.
Yeah. So let's take that a step further in that case. If it comes in a box, comes in a wrapper, it's not natural. It's been processed. Keep away from it. If it comes in a box, if it's got eyes, ears, and feet, keep away from it as much as you can. Eat red meat if you must, in high moderation, once a week max, 150 grams. I don't know what that is in ounces in your language. Red meat. All meat is so high with medications and so forth that we're getting medication. What do you call them? Antibiotics. We are developing resistance to antibiotics because we're eating it.
I'm going to disagree on that just real quick, because we had a whole podcast on it that actually comes out tomorrow, next day, this week.
That's why I didn't want to be controversial.
No, it's fine, because it's the same conversation. You're going to agree exactly with what I'm going to say. It's
Right.
not the meat, it's the type of meat. It's the fact that we're going for cow, pig, chicken, turkey, right? And those are mass-produced animals. So in order to get them out, in order to get them on the shelves, they have to inject them. They have to keep them in shit-living environments. But if you went and ate real meat, and like I'm talking more what people call gamey meat, super lean, super high in protein, super low in saturated fat, they're not processed in factories like most of the other animals are. So they have no antibiotics in them. They have no other resistance. And it's one of the healthiest things you can put into your body, because especially as you age, you need complete proteins. And the only way to get that is through red meat or any other kind of animal products. So it's not meat. And that's where that study was for. It's the type. So I eat a lot of elk. I eat a lot of bison. I actually ate kangaroo for the first time a couple of days ago. So going back to Australia. So it's just the types of meat we're eating.
Yeah. So I am predominantly plant-based these days. And I found that when I was a meat eater, my joints would ache. I'd have to have a rest after a day of heavy weightlifting to rest before I could train again. As a plant-based, predominantly plant-based, my diet is not inflammatory. It's uninflammatory. So my joints and muscles are such that I can exercise every day. Look, I'll come clean. I'm 75 years of age, and I exercise every day. I'm doing 2 or 3 hours of exercise every day. I would not be able to do that if I was still a meat eater. I get my protein. I have to be honest, I eat a little bit of fish, but I haven't eaten any meat for probably 10 years. I get my protein from tofu, nuts and seeds, all the legumes, and in fact, there's protein in everything that we eat, everything. And I basically say we can cut out the middleman largely, the middleman being the meat. We can go straight to the source. You don't see any weak elephants, gorillas, giraffes. They're all very, very healthy and strong. And I'm very, very healthy and strong. So I respect everybody that still likes meat, but respectfully say, Anthony, I try and keep away from it as much. And processed meat, by the way, has been scientifically proven to be carcinogenic, cancer
Oh
causing.
yeah, nitrates and found
Yeah,
in like cold cuts. Probably the worst thing you can put in your body.
yeah. So
I look at
already I can tell you that I love you, and I don't want to disagree with you, but I come from a different school.
Hey, it's all good. I have the exact opposite problem. I suffer from IBSD. So if I eat anything high in fiber, which is your seeds, your plants, I die.
Oh, really? Well, then don't do that. Eat meat.
So my diet is 99% meat with very little anything added. Like that's I will literally just eat like a pound of elk in a sitting.
Wow. Wow.
But it's awesome. I highly recommend, by the way, if you haven't had elk, to go try elk. It's phenomenal tasting. And
I have tasted kangaroo way back when. Kangaroo tail soup. Beautiful.
never had that. I only had we know obviously it's hard to get here. So the only thing I could find was ground kangaroo, and I tried making it. It was like leaner than elk, which is crazy because elk is like
Yeah.
super lean.
Yeah.
And it's slightly more in like the gamier side, like venison.
Right. Well,
That's
you find plenty of kangaroos here. They're in plague proportions down here out in the bush.
I've talked to a couple of Aussies that have moved up here, and I've heard crazy stories about kangaroos.
Yeah.
And they were like, "What? Don't go near them." I guess it's more like when you're down south in the U.S., like avoiding the crocs.
Yeah.
You don't want to piss them off on anything.
No, definitely not.
Regardless, total side conversation. No, but I really, a lot of the things you said, I still, like I said, I full heartedly believe. And I think you really hit the nail on the head mentioning the government side of it. And I couldn't agree more, actually, with you on that. It's the big companies that pay for these studies are the reason that they come out fake. And if you don't believe me, I've mentioned this about 400 times. So if you don't know this by now, you don't listen to my show. But back in like the 70s, the US did a study on the obesity crisis because it started coming around by then.
Yeah.
And they showed that it was high fats in foods that was causing the obesity epidemic.
Yeah.
And they didn't disprove that for about 20 years later. Like you remember, like for me growing up, it was all no fat this, low fat this. And it was actually doing a lot of damage. And then when you go look at the study, you realize it was sponsored by the Coca-Cola company. So
Yes.
no shit.
Look, cardiovascular health is a big one, and I won't mention the name of the cardiologist. Number one, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he was the head of cardiology in a hospital in New York, and he's a plant-based doctor. And he went to the board managing the hospital, and said, "Hey, we know what's causing heart disease. We can stop heart disease. We just need to reduce the amount of fat that people are eating, so their arteries don't clog. We know exactly what's required. So if we were to implement this type of diet within the hospital and start promoting and educating people around this topic," he said, "we're going to reduce the amount of Americans that have heart disease." The board of the hospital came back to me and said, "What, are you mad? Are you mad? How many people do you think are going to be out of work if we don't have these people sick coming in, needing bypass operations, needing stents put in? How many people will be out of work? The hospital will lose so much revenue." How crazy is that? Head of cardiology at this great big hospital in America, he resigned from the hospital. He said, "I cannot work in an environment where we know the cure, we know what to do, and yet the hospital will keep on promoting, crap food because they're being supported by, some, Coca-Cola, for example." You mentioned
Even a
that.
step further, you look at foods made here and then foods, I think Australia is the same as Europe, where foods that you can buy here, like you buy Heinz ketchup, right?
Yes, we got it here.
It doesn't matter. Our Heinz ketchup is different than yours. Ours has
Really?
like 15, 20 ingredients in it. Yours, I think it was like 4.
Yeah.
So a lot of the substances they're putting into our foods are banned in Europe, Australia, other countries because they're known to be harmful. Bring that kind of back to what's going on now with the U.S. politics, and I don't like getting into politics because people get a
No,
butt
that's
hurt,
right.
but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. This is just important. RFK is coming in and made very clear the first thing he's going to ban is red dye 40, which is a byproduct of petroleum and has been shown time and time again to increase the amount of ADHD levels and anxiety in kids. And it's one of the biggest things found in candies and sodas because they use it as a food coloring. There's no purpose but then just the coloring of a food. It's banned in most of Europe, and we still have it on our shelves. And we're not only that, we're promoting it to kids.
Yeah.
Did I say, hey, have this? So that is going to be interesting to see how things change here in the States as he kind of, hopefully, fingers crossed, really gets rid of those things that we know are extremely bad for you.
Yeah.
And we don't even advertise either on labels or B, it's just different. It's just overly processed bullshit. Anyway, that's just my take on it.
Oh, look, Australia is the little brother, the baby brother to whatever happens in America. Whatever happens there, we do here. And we do have more strict labeling on food products, but 100 miles away from where it needs to be. It's still a long way away from being totally honest. So, but look, basically, if it has, in my view, if it has eyes, feet, ears, eat it in high moderation. Go into a fruit and vegetable store and eat anything that you can see and as much of it as you want. If it comes in a box, it's processed. Keep away from it. Those three things, and you're going to have a pretty healthy diet. Alcohol, that's plant-based, thank God. Only a little bit now and again, in high moderation as well. So
we've talked about it. You got to live, right? 80-20.
You have to have some fun.
You definitely have to have some fun. And then this is the last point, going back to checking labels, and I'm sure it's different by year than it is here. But you look at peanut butter, and
yes,
it's just another case study. Go to the grocery store next time, read a label. So the peanut butter industry is the one that's most against the trans fat ban than any other industry. Reason being is they use it to preserve the peanut butter and keep it smooth. Trans fat, also called partially hydrogenated oils. If you read labels and it says 0 grams of trans fat, all they did was change the nutrition serving to make it 0.4 so that they can list it as 0. It's still on there if you read it, and you don't even know that peanut butter you're eating, you think it's healthy, is one of the worst things you could put in your body.
Oh my God.
Trans fat kills you, and you have to be smart enough to go pick and look at a label and say, okay, this one doesn't have it. This one ingredients say peanuts. So I can have that one and not the Skippy and the Peter Pan that have all these partially hydrogenated oils in it.
Well, you're sending me right to my pantry to have a look at my peanut butter now. I love peanut butter.
I don't know how it is in Aussie. I know that's what it is here now.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, just read that. It's usually the second ingredient. The peanut butter stays smooth. That's usually the reason. It either has partially hydrogenated oil or it has palm oil in it. But either way, it should not be like that. If the oil should shift to the bottom, which, by the way, hack on that. If you don't want the oil separating it, throw it in the refrigerator. It makes it a little harder to scoop, but the oil won't separate it out because of the temperature differential.
Okay. I'm going to check that out as soon as we finish.
I appreciate it. Graham, all right, let's wrap this episode up. So I'm going to ask you the final 2 questions I ask everybody. First question, if you were to summarize this episode in 1 sentence, what would be your take-home message?
Could you repeat that, please?
If you were to summarize this episode in a sentence, what would be your take-home message?
Oh, okay. Well, privilege, the first word that comes to my mind. It's been an absolute delight to meet you, Anthony, and do this. And we've, I think we come sing from the same hymn book. So that's the first thing. Privilege. We are like-minded. Wonderful to get my message out in America. Although I'm sure everybody knows it. People talk about, oh yes, I know that we need to exercise, and I know to eat well, get enough sleep, get rest, have some social interaction. But nobody does it. So let's get off our butts, get out, get active, and start winding back the clock.
I love that. And the second question, how can people find you, get a hold of you, find your book? Go ahead, give it all away.
Okay, my website is www, all the W's, renewed after 50, RENEWEDAFTER 50, the numbers, .com.au for Australia. Anybody contact me, I'll be happy to show them what we do. They can join in on my online classes if they're interested. And we actually have an app coming out probably February or March of next year, specifically for over 50s. We're launching it worldwide, my son and I, and so that people from 50 on can exercise in their own home. Lots of pre-recorded exercises, become part of our community worldwide, closed Facebook groups, etc., different levels. I won't bore you with all of that, but if anybody said, can you send me details of what you're doing next year, I would happily send them a questionnaire to get their feedback as we're finishing the designing of the product. And then when we start, if they fill out the questionnaire, be happy to give them 2 months free subscription to what we're doing. So if you go into my website, www.renewedafter50.com.au, and contact me, I'll be happy to forward that information onto them.
I love it. Thank you so much, Graham, for joining us. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing fields. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time.